Oh, I'm coming. I'm coming down. I'm almost there. Should I start filming? I did. So welcome to my unfiltered thoughts. Sierra is not here to help you. She's not coming to save you. It's just you and me. Hey, hello, welcome, hi. I'm John, and obviously Sierra's not here. But Sierra's not here for good reason. Sierra is in Europe because she, first of all, just like traveling, having fun, but she's also focusing on her dissertation. She is writing it, she is sending it in for edits, she is getting ready to defend it, and then hopefully in a few months, she'll be a doctor, like a full blown doctor. So while she's out there living her best life, working hard, we send her positive vibes, all the love. Am I jealous that she's in Europe without me? Obviously. But it's okay. We survive, we move on. That is kind of housekeeping update item number one. Item number two is that we have an Instagram now. We have an Instagram. It is @_ and they were readers. Because just and they were readers was already taken, and that's fine. Why do we have an Instagram? I'm so glad you asked. I want to use our Instagram as one, just a place to post some like behind the scenes. When we're hanging out together, we're taking photos. We're not always making long form content. And then when we start making actual short form content for you, whether it's YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, or both, we can post them there. Also, I finish a book, and so often I look at my physical TBR and I'm like, dang, I'm really just between two things, and I wish I could have the audience and our great community help me choose my next book in real time. So now I can do that. I can post to the Instagram story and be like, let's choose between this book and this book, and then you guys can help me with that decision. And that's just so much nicer. We have the Instagram. Go check it out. Pause the video. Go to @_ and they were readers on Instagram. We have one post up right now, and that's just like our welcome post. But then I want to hold me accountable. I want to use it regularly. That's our Instagram. That's housekeeping item number two. Housekeeping and fun item number three is Happy Pride. I don't usually speak for Sierra when she's not here, but I feel like I can speak for her when I say this, that we love everybody in our audience, and we are so happy you're here, and so happy you are who you are, and you are loved, and you are seen. We love you, we appreciate you, and we appreciate you being you. Without further ado, I always feel like when I film these videos by myself, I feel like Sid the Sloth when he's like, they left without me. They do this every year. Why? You know what I'm talking about? If you don't, go watch Ice Age. I don't know what number it is. Oh, I'm not filming in front of the library. I'm gonna be honest with you for a second. So I tried to film this video last night. I had like the lights, I had everything was set up, and I was filming it in front of the library on the couch on the new set, but it felt weird. It felt off. I felt like I was performing for you guys, and I didn't like it. I didn't like the way it felt. I didn't like the way I felt. So I got through like maybe half of the books I was gonna talk about, and I decided that I was done. I was like, I'm not doing it tonight. It's not good. It doesn't feel like me. So I just kind of scrapped it. So I was like, we're just going to start from scratch. We're not going to give up. We're just going to try again. Right. So that's what we're doing now. So I decided to film it in a place where I felt, I guess, more comfortable. And I was like, I need to be on the ground. Do you guys ever get that? Where I'm like, I need to be on the floor. Like whatever I'm doing, I'll be more comfortable doing it from the ground. So I'm in my bedroom on the ground, and we're going to talk about books. I have 10 books to get through today. So all the housekeeping stuff, we got Instagram, we got Pride, we got Sierra, and then I'm not in front of my library. Those are the four things I need to like explain to you guys. And then now we get into the books. I have 10 books to go through. The first one is, I have a stack here. The stack is already ruined. My first book is The Wager by David Grann. Now, this had been on my TBR for a while. I want to say I got it for $1 last year. I think that's true. I'm trying not to lie to you guys, but I do that sometimes. My bad. This is The Wager by David Grann. He also wrote Killers of the Flower Moon, and that was turned into a movie recently with Leonardo DiCaprio that I need to watch. I'm behind on my movies. I'm sorry. The subtitle is A Tale of Shipwreck, Mutiny, and Murder. And people kept saying that this is a nonfiction that reads like a fiction, and that is actually so true. It feels like a fiction in the sense that if I was going to write a tale about shipwreck in the British Imperial era, it would be similar to this. And that's giving myself way too much credit because I can't do that. Backstory, it is, what year are we in? It's 1742. The Wager is part of a fleet of ships that has been sent out by the British Empire to kind of capture or destroy or take a Spanish ship that has carrying a lot of gold. Right now, it's the race for land, the race for colonization, and Britain and Spain are kind of leading that charge, and they're like sending people out, and they're doing it for like, what is it? For God, gold, and glory, whatever the like 3 Gs were. And the Wager is part of the boat, is part of the fleet that is like a storage ship, kind of. Like, they're not the main boat, they're not the big boat. In order to intercept this ship, they have to go through the Drake's Passage. Now, if you know what the Drake's Passage is, it's the portion of water right under South America and between Antarctica. And you've probably seen videos on it on social media lately. It's where you see these like walls of water. And it's because the way the waters meet there, it just causes super turbulent seas. So they have to go through the Drake's Passage. One thing leads to another. Some ships disappear, people get separated, some ships just go down entirely. I'm not going to spoil too much. Like, yes, it is quite literally history that you can look up, but I also know it's a story. Just know that there's a shipwreck, and we're following specifically the Wager at that point and the crew of the Wager. There's a shipwreck, there's an island, there's indigenous peoples, and then obviously some of them, not a lot, some of them survive, and that's how we have the accounts that are recounted in this book and retold here. The themes that are super important is, I would say, like, loyalty came into question a lot. Loyalty to the crown and loyalty to like your fellow human, and then loyalty to yourself, right? Like, at what point do you give up on a mission and forfeit the possibility to like please your country and your empire for the sake of the people that are around you right now that need to survive? Are you less of a citizen? Are you less of a soldier if you are prioritizing the lives of the people that are in front of you? The whole like captain goes down with his ship, that comes into play, obviously. It really juggles the idea of like, again, back to Hamilton, who lives, who dies, who tells your story, but in the sense of who really writes history. And as we know, history is written in the eyes from the perspective of the victors almost every time. And that's what we learn in school. So at the very end, David Grant explains why some things happened the way they did. And a lot of it was the British Empire trying to save face. And it's wild. So The Wager, David Grant, I loved it. I think I have it written down, 4.25 stars. So history class is always impressive, and what we learn in history is important. But there's a lot of things that we don't learn in history, right? So like when we were covering British imperialism in the 1700s, I felt like we could have given a day or some space, just a little bit of space, for stories like this of The Wager or other things that happened that like went awry. Yes, they're like really minor details and little spin-offs, but that would be cool to learn. In the same vein of things that we didn't learn in history that maybe we should have learned about, this is the next book I read called The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead, or Whitehead, maybe. First of all, I will say I listened to this book and I didn't read it physically, and I think I did a disservice to this book by doing that because I wasn't fully focused. That being said, it was still a banger. The Nickel Boys takes place in the 1960s, so like just pre-civil rights movement in America. And it takes place in Florida, in Tallahassee specifically. And it was interesting to have a book that talks about some things that happened pre-civil rights to Black and brown people in your state, and talks about cities that you've been to and places you know of and nature and like topography and things that you can picture very clearly because you know the makeup of your state, right? And Florida is a very specific one because it's so much swamp and water, and like the trees that we have here are very unique and identifiable, things like that. Anyway, so The Nickel Boys follows the story of Elwood Curtis, who is a Black child. He's kind of growing up, he's pretty smart. And then one thing leads to another. He gets placed in this juvenile, like correctional facility institution that is supposed to be a school, and it's called the Nickel Academy, and it's in Tallahassee, Florida. What we learn at the very beginning of the book is the beginning of the book takes place kind of in like present times or more present times. There's a news article published about people who have discovered the graves of children that were attending this school. So you go into the story, you jump back in time, and you already know ahead of time that this school is disappearing children instead of focusing on rehabilitating them and reintegrating people into society. Does that sound similar to what we're doing now? Yes. I'll just read the back to give you a little bit perspective. It says, when Elwood Curtis, a black boy growing up in 1960s Tallahassee, is unfairly sentenced to a juvenile reformatory called the Nickel Academy, he finds himself trapped in a grotesque chamber of horrors. Elwood's only salvation is his friendship with fellow delinquent Turner, which deepens despite Turner's conviction. I can't read. Hey, I can't read. Can you read? I can't read. Basically, Elwood has a friend. The friend's name is Turner, and Turner and Elwood kind of come at this academy and the situation they're in from two different perspectives. Elwood is like, I am going to goody two-shoes my way out of this. And Turner is like, that's dumb. You'll never make it. It'll eat you alive and quite literally kill you. In the vein of like fiction and nonfiction, so The Wager is a book that is nonfiction that reads like fiction. This is a fiction that is based on real events, not necessarily the story with Elwood, but like academies like this did exist where people would go and the people that were supposed to be taking care of them or helping to rehabilitate or reintegrate these kids into society and help them lead more meaningful lives are actually harming them, treating them unfairly, and in the end, killing some of them. So it was wild. It felt like I was reading two nonfictions back to back, even though I know that's not the case. Okay, this next one, this is crazy, and I honestly, like, I feel like I shudder to talk about this book because it left this pit in my stomach. The whole time I was reading this book, I just had this eerie feeling similar to how I felt reading The Road by Cormac McCarthy, where you have like maybe a sense of hope that you know is never going to be fulfilled, which I'm saying it like it's a bad thing, but I also think that if you can write that well, it's incredible. And this book is now, I feel like, a fundamental part of the whole bookish community and a modern classic. And I'm talking about it so much without showing it to you. It is I Who Have Never Known Men by Jacqueline Hartman. This was written originally in 1995 and then translated from the French a few years later. This one specifically is translated by Rose Schwartz or Ross Schwartz. There's only one S, so you never really know. This, okay. Even thinking about it, I have like this weird eerie like fog that feel like comes around me. I don't dwell on this book for too long, but I do recommend it. So you have this group of 40 women living in a bunker underground, and we follow this perspective of the youngest of those women. She is a girl when we start. I want to say like 12, 14-ish. And she is significantly younger than all the other women there, and she has no recollection of what the world was like or even could have been like before the bunker. Some of the other women there have like small snippets of memory of like, oh, life used to be like this. We used to get married. We used to have jobs, blah, blah, blah. How do you even explain it? You feel just as lost and confused as the women in this book because you're getting it from their perspective. Also, this book has no chapters, which helps to serve the whole idea that like things are just happening, things are just going, and there's no structure, there's no order. You don't know where you are. You have no way to ground yourself. So I highly recommend, if you can sit down and read this book in one sitting, do it, because that's, I feel like, how it is meant to be read, but also sit there and make sure you're consuming what you're reading. I understand why it's part of the bookish community and like literary canon of modern classics. It's wild to write a book like this and like be captivating the whole time. That's art. That's art. The next book on the docket is Mythos by Stephen Fry. I bought these in Spain because I was reading all these Greek retellings like Song of Achilles, Electra, Ariadne, and I was like, I don't really know the story of the Greek myths and like the Iliad and the Odyssey and the stories that make up the foundation of where we get all these retellings, right? So I'm like, what is the source material? But do I really want to read the Iliad? Fun fact, when I was filming this video yesterday, I grabbed the Iliad off my shelf, which I have, and I do want to read eventually. But after I read Dante's Inferno, I was like, maybe I'm not going to read like old literature like that, because that was hard. But then I started reading it, and I was like, oh, it's actually not that hard to get through, and it's actually kind of hype. So maybe I am going to read it. This basically takes a lot of like the stories of the Greek myths, specifically regarding the deities, and puts it into modern words. And what we get is, from the very beginning of time, like the Greek mythological creation story starts with chaos, and then from chaos we get like these other primordial beings, and then eventually we trickle down to like the Titans, and then we have from the Titans we have like Zeus and his line, and then we get to the Olympic era, which is kind of what we operate in today, and where we get most of the stories that we know of now, because Zeus and the other 11 gods that make up like the ruling group of Mount Olympus, you know. This is a retelling of how he got to Zeus, and then it's like stories of the gods, and not just like willy-nilly stories of the gods. A lot of it, yes, is Zeus coming down to like sleep with someone that isn't his wife, and then Hera gets jealous and Hera tortures them, and like that's how we get blah blah blah, right? There's a lot of origin stories. For example, Zeus hosts a banquet on Olympus, and this felt like was kind of early on, and he was like, give me something good to eat, right? And then this creature comes and gives him honey, and then as a reward, Zeus is like, I'll grant you a wish. The creature's wish was, I need a way to defend myself, like a mortal sting, so that when people, I'm like making this honey for days, it takes so long, I'm just a bee, and people keep stealing my honey, like, have you met a bear? Wild times. And Zeus was like, how freaking dare you ask me for something so crazy? So Zeus's little trick is, I'll give you your mortal sting, but whenever you use it, you'll also die. So as you know, if a bee stings you, it's barbed, so it gets stuck in you, but it also pulls like out their insides. This feels really gruesome. It pulls out their insides, and the bee dies. So that's like the creation story of that, is like why a bee sting hurts you but also kills the bee. I don't know. The gods are just wild, and I think it's fun because usually when you think of like the idea of a deity, it's perfect, it's all-knowing, it's all-powerful, they do no wrong. And then you get the gods in Greek mythology, and it's like, y'all are kids, y'all are immature, and you have so much power, and it's a little scary sometimes, but it's also kind of funny because you're just messy. You're just messy, like the Real Housewives of Olympus. Okay, I'm back. Did you miss me? Oh, my water. My water's so far away. Then it never works. Did you ever like give yourself headaches as a kid trying to use the Force? If not, just pretend and say yes. I was watching tennis today. Coco Gauff won the French Open championship today. She's the first American woman to do it since 2015, so 10 years ago, and it was Serena Williams back then. She beat Arina Sabalenka. It was a phenomenal match. Every once in a while, my brain does just like beep, 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 and I'm like, hey, can we focus? We're here to talk about books. They're here to hear about books, and I'm sorry. Okay, what was I doing? So I got up and I got some books because I wanted to show you what I was talking about. So this is Stephen Fry's Mythos and Heroes next to each other. I think when I bought the books, these are the only two that were available. You can see how they are perfectly even in size and shape, and design is so similar with the little hole on the front and a little, this one has a Pegasus and this one has the shoe of Achilles. John, the shoe of Hermes. I like this one a lot because it's like, because it's shiny. that's literally the only reason. It's shiny. I haven't read it. I like how it sparkles. Is pretty. I'm so sorry. I feel like I just drank a whole shot of espresso and I didn't. I simply just walked around for a second. I stood up and I walked around. If you're wondering why I'm wearing a hat, it's not because I got a bad haircut. I did get a haircut, and it's like, yeah, it's not exactly what I wanted it to be, but it's not bad. It's fine. I took a nap in the middle of the day because I had stuff going on before, and I have stuff going on later tonight. Can you sue me for having a social life? I took a nap, and I was like, I need to sit down and film this video, or I'm not going to do it this weekend, and that's just sad. My hair got messed up, and that's why I'm wearing a hat. John, shut up. Shut up. Let's talk about the next book. The next book is The Serviceberry by Robin Wall Kimmerer. Robin Wall Kimmerer. Nailed it. First try. The Serviceberry, the way I talk about this book, first of all, I saw it on somebody else's channel, and I can't remember his name now. Is it Sean McComb? I think it's Sean McComb. And I didn't know it existed, and I almost, when I tell you, it was basically immediate that I had this sent to me. It actually might have been, because I want to read everything that this woman produces. I want her to read it to me. I listened to her first book that I read, Braiding Sweetgrass, and having her speak reciprocity and abundance and living in harmony with nature in to my ears just felt like I was getting rocked to bed like as a baby. So if Mrs. Kimmerer, Miss Robin Wall Kimmerer, if you are looking to adopt a grandchild, or you just need somebody around, I volunteer. I talk about these books in tandem because I would say if Braiding Sweetgrass is your three-piece suit, then the Serviceberry is like your ascot, your tie, your watch, right? It's the accessories, and it's like it just kind of like attaches right, nice and tidy to Braiding Sweetgrass. So the Serviceberry is on abundance and reciprocity in the natural world. Robin Wall Kimmerer is an indigenous woman. She has her PhD in plant ecology. She's a botanist, and she's also a member of the Potawatomi indigenous tribe. And just like in Braiding Sweetgrass, she's taking these practices that indigenous communities have practiced from way before colonization took place, way before America was what America is now. And Braiding Sweetgrass talks about how the way that the indigenous people, the Native Americans, interacted with their environment and with nature, science is now coming back, go figure, and saying, oh, like this is how we should do things. And it's just proving that all of the ways the Native Americans interacted with nature was correct and like mutually beneficial between like humanity and nature. And now we live in this idea, this economy of scarcity and greed rather than abundance and reciprocity. So this book uses the Serviceberry as an example of living out of abundance, and Robin Wall Kimmerer is really suggesting or challenging the way our economy operates. Rather than being an economy focused on scarcity, it's an economy focused on abundance, reciprocity. I'm going to keep saying those words. And she highlights things like eating with the seasons, right? The fact that we eat out, eating outside the season is forcing nature to work overtime in ways that it was never meant to, and it is harmful in the end. And we know this to the natural processes of the planet, but we are just like squeezing every last drop we can out of the natural world to serve us. And then we have this idea of the scarcity economy where it's kind of like the zero-sum theory, which I know comes up a lot in books on race, like The Sum of Us, why all the black kids sitting together in the cafeteria, where I can't win and you also win, right? It's either me or you, and that's not the case. It can be all of us, and there's enough for all of us if we take what we need and not what we want. Enumerating the gifts you've received creates a sense of abundance. I'm going to say that first word again because I literally rolled over it. Enumerating the gifts you received creates a sense of abundance, the knowing that you already have what you need. Recognizing enoughness is a radical act in an economy that is always urging us to consume more. Data tell the story that there are enough food calories on the planet for all 8 billion of us to be nourished, and yet people are starving. Imagine the outcome if we took only enough rather than far more than our share. The wealth and security we seem to crave could be met by sharing what we have. Isn't that insane? This data tells the story that there are enough food calories on the planet for all 8 billion of us to be nourished, and yet people are starving. And if you don't know what a Serviceberry is, join the club because I didn't. The name Serviceberry comes not from its service, but from a very old version of its rose family name, Sorbus. That's Sorbus, Sorbus, which became Sarvis and hence service. While the name did not derive from its benefits, the plant does provide myriad goods and services, not only to humans, but to many other citizens. What time is it? Where am I? I feel like I just entered the Twilight Zone and I just kept talking and talking and talking. Oh, okay. So this next book I decided to buddy read with a friend. I got this from Book of the Month, not sponsored. Bummer. And it was sitting on my shelf, and I decided, I was like, I just need to knock it out of the park, pick it up, do it, read it. It's springtime. Well, now it's summer. Hey, listen, I'm going to be honest with you. You can skip through like half of this because maybe 50% of what I'm saying is relevant to the books that I'm trying to talk about. Everything else is my brain running away, and I can't catch it all the time. So welcome to my unfiltered thoughts. Sierra is not here to help you. She's not coming to save you. It's just you and me. Anyway, That was crazy. That felt like a threat. I'm sorry. Okay, this is First Time Caller. You can't see it. This is First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. And from the cover alone, it doesn't look like a book that I would ever pick up or read, right? Or enjoy. Let's say that, let's be honest. Where we are, we're in Baltimore, and Aidan Valentine is the host of a radio segment called Heartstrings, and it's kind of like Baltimore's romance hotline. People call in with their relationship issues, and Aidan is supposed to give them advice or at least talk them through it. But when we start the story, he's kind of giving up on his idea of love. Like he's falling out of, he's not in love with love anymore. He doesn't feel like it's real, or as romantic as it should be. And then Lucy Stone has this like spunky daughter who I want to say like 12 or 13, and she's a single mom. And she hasn't dated in a long time, right? She's like, I got this, I'm doing it on my own. I will say a few things I want to talk about with this book is one, it highlights the validity of a non-traditional family unit. So like Lucy is raising her daughter, and the daughter's father is still in the picture, like very much so. And it's in a very fun way. And the family unit that they have is so tight-knit, while being non-traditional. It's good to see that is getting representation, especially in a romance novel. Something I always think about when I read on planes. So let's go through it because it's just me here. You're a trapped, captive audience. So I don't read on planes at night. If the plane is going to be dark, I'm not reading because I'm not turning on that light. And some people out there are going to be like, you paid for your seat, you paid for that light, it is your God-given right to use it. Yes, I understand, but if you've ever like gone to the bathroom and then looked at the plane when it's dark and you see it's like a sea of darkness and then one bright blaring light, I'm like, I will never be that light. So I was on a flight a few weeks ago and it was during the day and I was like, perfect, I'll read. This is the book I was reading, so I brought it, as one does. And I'm also like usually never concerned about what I'm reading because it's never that spicy. I don't read romance books like that a lot. So I started reading, and as soon as I opened the book, I kid you not, as soon as I opened the book, it is spicy. Whatever Sierra says, cracked door, whatever, this door felt all the way open. The door is off the hinges. The door is non-existent. Bye door. No one's paying attention. No one is paying attention. I've never once stared at the page. That's not true. That's not true. I'm the one that pays attention because I want to know what book people are reading. If anyone was around that was like me, maybe they saw the pages. But at first I was like, it's fine. Like you couldn't just look at the page and know that I'm reading smut, that I'm reading the dirtiest thing I've ever read in my life. But then some of the language that the book uses was so explicit that you could look at the book and just automatically pick up the fact that like this man, what is this man doing on this plane? What is he reading? It ended up being fine. I bet I'm willing to place money that nobody saw and nobody cared. But I thought about it a lot. And I felt exposed. I felt extremely exposed. That is First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. I think it's a good romance. I'd rank it higher than all the other Hemleys I've read other than Happy Place. And it was fun. It was fresh. I feel like some parts of it were a little bit drawn out. But it was a good time. The next two books I'm going to talk about in tandem because they're a duology. So sue me. When I was in the airport with this book in my backpack, in my luggage, I knew I was going to finish it pretty fast because we had like a 3-hour flight and I didn't have that much of the book left. So I finished this book on the flight. And me, planning ahead, I did bring another book with me. What was it? Oh, it was Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut. And I was looking at it and I was like, is that really what I want for this trip? Do I want to be reading Cat's Cradle by Kurt Vonnegut? I don't think so. And there was a bookstore in the airport, as there usually is. And I walked up, and my friends were all sitting there, and I was like, I'm just going to go look. I'm just going to go look at the books. Everybody calm down. I'm just going to see what they have to offer. I want to see their selection. I come back. I have this in my hand. So I bought Vicious by V.E. Schwab. This is a book that I had been meaning to read for a long time. I didn't really know what it was about, but I know Lexi, a.k.a. Newly Nova, did a video on it. And when I watched her video, she got me excited. So I did end up reading both of them. I finished Vicious when I got back, and then I kind of just immediately went to the store, and I was like, well, if I don't do the second one now, I'm never going to do it. Which isn't really true, but you get the vibes. Did I love these books? No, they weren't terrible, but they weren't, like, blow me out of the water amazing. Basically, the premise is we have our two main characters, Victor Vale and Eli Cardale. Elliot Cardale, I think, and they meet in school and they're like working on like their thesis and choosing what to study. Eli decides that he wants to study extraordinary people, which is kind of their way of saying like people with superpowers. The way that they get them is very interesting. I actually won't say it because I think it's cool, and it's the part of the book that actually kept bringing me back was the way that people get powers in this book is really interesting and not your typical like he fell in a vat of acid, he got bitten by a radioactive spider, he's an alien. I think this is something that Lexi, aka Newly Nova, said, and I 100% agree. These two books could have been the size of this book if these men just decided to make out with each other and confess their love. We spend the entirety of both of these books with one of these men, if not like both of them, trying to get to each other, to reconcile something that happened in the past, and it quite literally consumes their entire identities and their entire lives, and they bring other people into it, and they both have their causes. What is it that Loki calls it? His like divine purpose, whatever. Anyway, no, his glorious purpose. It is a mixture of sci-fi and fantasy. It starts off kind of dark academia-ish, but then they pretty quickly leave the college setting. There's this The side characters in this book are such tools. And when I say tools, I don't mean like, oh, he's such a tool. I mean in the sense that the side characters are so specifically written and given powers only to further the purpose of getting our main characters back together at these points of reconciliation, and they meet each other for such tiny parts of the book. Like, that's what I'm saying. It could be the size of the Serviceberry. V.E. Schwab talked to Robin while Kimmerer. And I know that V.E. Schwab has great books, and I'm not saying that these are bad. I'm not saying don't read them. V.E. Schwab also wrote The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which I still want to read because people say it's really good. I'm just saying I think a lot of this book was superfluous, and I think a lot of the side characters were extraneous. And I don't have any other big words that mean extra and unnecessary, so that's what I'm going to say. I think I gave Vicious 3.75 and Vengeful 3.25, so an average of 3.5 is decent. It's not a bad book, it just wasn't my favorite. And I was expecting more, especially because I bought you in an airport. I bought your book in an airport. That's big for me. I never do that. So I'm realizing I need Sierra. Well, like obviously I need Sierra. Sierra's like my friend and all that. But I'm realizing in real time that I need her because she tells me when to shut up. Guys, I'm so sorry. If you're still here, you're a trooper, and I love you, and I appreciate that. I want you to know that I see you. I've been rambling on the floor of my bedroom for God knows how long, and you're still here. I have to edit this. I did this to myself. You ever create your own torture? It's not torture. Once I start editing, I actually like it. You guys can probably tell every time I take a break because what is he saying when he gets back? How are you guys feeling about the floor? I kind of like the floor. We have two books left. This is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Now, this is one of those classics that I am both okay with the fact that I didn't really pay attention to it in school, and also like I wish I had, if that makes sense. Similar to how I feel about The Great Gatsby. This should be required reading, and I get it, and I get why they teach this book in school. I did not know. If you had asked me like 2 weeks ago what the plot of this was, man, I would have gotten it so wrong. Let's just talk about it. So, To Kill a Mockingbird takes place in Macomb, Alabama in, I want to say the 1930s. We follow Scout Finch. We get the book told from her perspective, and she's hilarious, first of all. Good job, Harper. And she has a brother, an older brother named Jem, which the whole time I was listening to it, I thought it was Jim, but apparently it's Jem, Jem. It is. And then they live with their father, Atticus, and their mother has passed away. We don't really know when, but we know that Jem is old enough to remember their mother, but Scout isn't. A lot of it is reminiscent of like Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn. More Tom Sawyer in the sense that we're like following Scout and Jem as they're just kind of living their life. They're going to school, they're interacting with other kids, but they have they have structure and they have good role models in their lives. Specifically, Atticus. I think Atticus deserves a Nobel Prize for fatherhood. The lessons that he teaches his kids are like just second to none. Second to none? Who says that? I thought this book centered around this like whole lawsuit, this court case, a lot more than it really does. It really is more focused on like Scout and how she's growing up and like what Scout and Jem get into together. So sorry to burp into your mouth. What? Burp into your face. Anyway, this book covers themes of like adolescence, growing up, sibling dynamics, I think, and oh my goodness, and code switching. There's a point. So the Finch family has a cook. Her name is Calpurnia. She's black, and she goes to a black church. And at one point, Scout and Jem go to that black church with her and meet the people there. And you have some people that are like, why are you bringing white people to our church? And you have other people that are like, you're accepted. We want you here. But something that like Scout asks is like, why do you talk like that when you're here? Like when you're among people that look like you talk different. And she's like, well, why would I like talk white when I'm not with white people, right? And it talks about code switching. And they wrote this in the 1960s. Like, I did not realize that this book, when I was reading it in whatever it was, high school, middle school, Sierra would remember, that it goes through code switching, because that is something that like feels so specific to like a lot of like black culture and like minority culture and even like queer culture. Like you code switch to be safer and to fit into the majority of the room that you enter. You kind of like not necessarily, sometimes you like change your full personality, but sometimes you just change little things, like minuscule things, the way you talk, the way you act. Final thing I'll say about this book, I gave this 4.75 stars. But the final thing I want to say about this book is, now that we're in the era where people are taking classic novels and writing kind of additions to them, and what I mean by that, for example, James as like a fresh take on Huck Finn, Julia for 1984, March for Little Women. I think we need one called just like Atticus or Finch or Mr. Finch, whatever, what have you. Somebody write the book from Atticus's perspective. Don't do it wrong, don't do it bad, do it justice, do it well, and I'll read it. A few quotes, I have them written on my phone/computer because I was listening to them, so I couldn't like underline it at the time. But they're both kind of around Atticus. So, and this is a quote that you might know that I had heard before, but I didn't really know came from To Kill a Mockingbird. It's Atticus is saying, you never really understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb inside his skin and walk around in it. Duh, get into that. And then this is, okay, so this really kind of put into words a lot of the feelings I have about like the current political state and the wars that are going on, the atrocities that we're seeing on TV. Atticus is kind of talking to the people of the household, and the Aunt Alexandra is staying with them, and she says, Atticus, you are the last person I thought would turn bitter over this. And Atticus says, I'm not bitter, just tired. I'm going to bed. And then his son, Jem, says, Atticus, said Jem bleakly, how could they do it? How could they? And he says, I don't know, but they did it. They've done it before, they did it tonight, and they'll do it again. And when they do it, seems that only children weep. Good night. I physically paused the recording that was going on 2x speed, and I had this little Southern Belle narrator just going off in my head, and I was like, I played it back so that I could write it down word for word. I'm going to read it again and think about what's happening in the world right now. And it is tiring. I'm not trying to say this to like help to make you lose hope. I do think I'm very hopeful. Go to John Greed's Anthropocene Reviewed for a reminder of hope in the human condition, because maybe I'm being a little depressing. But Aunt Alexandra says, Atticus, you are the last person I thought would turn bitter over this. I'm not bitter, just tired. I'm going to bed. Atticus, said Jem bleakly, how could they do it? How could they? I don't know, but they did it. They've done it before, they did it tonight, and they'll do it again. And when they do it, seems that only children weep. They've done it before, they did it tonight, and they'll do it again. Man, I don't know what it is, but like, I'm gonna get that tattooed on me. Anyway, go read To Kill a Mockingbird. If you haven't read it in a while, read it again. If you've never read it for the first time. Heard it here first. This last book that I picked up, where did I see this book? Where did I see this book? I actually don't know. But this is We Could Have Been Friends, My Father and I, a Palestinian memoir by Raja Shahada. Raja is a prominent, guys, I promise I went to school. I have a degree. It's sitting in the closet right next to me because I don't have it hanging up. It's still in the little tube, you know, that tube that they give it to you in. I promise I have a degree. Raja Shahada is a prominent lawyer and a writer from Palestine, and his father was also a lawyer during his time. And his father, like, oh my goodness, the foresight that this man had. If you want to understand the conflict, and let's just call it a genocide in Palestine, and how kind of we got here, and people that were fighting to stop it from happening, and had the foresight to be like, we need to have these structures in place because they are stripping away our rights. We need to fight back and fight back in this way, because if not, like, it's going to get to basically where we are now. This Raja's father, Aziz, was kind of one of the prominent voices doing that and doing it well. And he faced so much backlash with people that, like, rightfully so, couldn't see the forest for the trees, right? It's similar to what Sierra and I mentioned before, where you have the US government like bombarding you with all these things that are negative that they're doing, and you don't have the brain space to think about all of it. You can only think about the thing that's right in front of you. So when they're stripping away your statehood, and not being a state makes it harder for you to be recognized within the UN and fight as a recognized state for your rights. Maybe you're not thinking about that. You're thinking about, like, your house getting taken away, your land getting taken away. If you are, like, in any way lawyer minded and want to understand the conflict leading up to the current genocide, I would highly recommend this book. And the idea is that in his youth, Raja disagreed with a lot of his father's practices and was like, you are fighting this when you need to be focusing on this. And his father didn't really share a lot of his methods with him and his reasons behind what he was doing. And then he was murdered. He passed. And it was only after the fact that Raja went and started, like, digging up a lot of old documents that his father had, and learning the things that his father actually stood for. And then he decided to write this memoir about his father. And he titled it "We Could Have Been Friends, My Father and I." I picked it up. It is, like, it's pretty dense because it is nonfiction, and it takes you through specifically around things that happened like the 1940s, 1950s, way prior to where we are now, but have this trickle-down effect that got us here. A quote that I just opened to, it says, "Not being aware of the extent and the sheer number of battles he had fought during his life, I could not understand the measure of his anger, disappointment, and unhappiness. In time, I could have come to appreciate all this and show more kindness and understanding towards him. He was healthy and took good care of himself. There was ample reason to believe that he still had a good number of years ahead of him. Yet with his untimely death, there was no more opportunity for any of that." If you guys have anything that you've read from Palestinian Voices, let me know in the comments. And let me know what you thought about any of these books. Let me just wrap it up here. Thank you for sitting with me, literally on the ground, and listening to me ramble on about these books that I read. I am sorry if I just lost track of where I was going. Sierra's here usually to ground me, and if not, I just ramble on apparently, because what the heck? What the helly? Thank you for watching. I appreciate you guys so much. Go check out the Instagram. Again, @_ and there are readers. Let me know what you thought about any of these books that I read, because there's a bunch of them. Yeah, we'll catch you in the next one. I don't know what the next one's going to be because Sierra's gone for a hot minute. But I'll catch you in it, and I'll be there, and you'll be there, and we're going to vibe. We're going to have good times. I need to shut up. I'm done. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. See ya.